Alright, real quick before we start, just a quick mic check. I just want to check the levels. I think music might be a little bit too loud. Okay. Alright, so, I guess welcome back to the stream. I guess I'll welcome myself back to Twitch since it's been a minute. So tonight I wanted to go over just a couple things. First off, I have added a lot of content to the website, so if you will, please hop on over to emeraldnova.com, and you'll notice that the contest is no longer on the main page. I've moved it over to a new section called Community. So the Community section is where I've put actually a fair bit of time into recently. I have questionnaires and interviews and otherwise, relevant links from a lot of people in this Saturn homebrew community. A lot of these pages are blank, and they're just kind of references and placeholders for when someone actually does get in touch with me to try and get some info on here. But a lot of them aren't. You actually see a few of them have, properly populated, interviews, questionnaires, links, and some insight into probably the earlier days of Saturn homebrew, which I thought was relatively interesting when I was going over everyone's responses and trying to get a hold of people. You get a lot of links to the older websites that might no longer be relevant in the community, or maybe are not as quite as visited as often or even updated anymore, but they're good for historical purposes. You get to see all the old emulators, what everyone did. Oh! Okay, Shane. Hey, okay, I didn't see you come in the stream, but yeah, thanks for re-upping. But yeah, so a lot of my work recently in the last couple months has actually been trying to populate this list of all the members of the community. Here's some, this is an incomplete list of the Saturn homebrew projects with links to various things. So like you want to see Sonic Z Dream, you get a link to the thread. So it's kind of like a semi-centralized thing. I know that the Sega Extreme Forums has their own project page, but a lot of people don't have that updated, so this is me manually updating. Has it been 21 streams? I'm trying to think. I think for Seniriu, this is the 21st Seniriu stream because I keep getting distracted by other projects. So, yeah, you know what? That might not be wrong. Yeah. So anyway, if you want to go and look at the actual contest page, so... Yeah, I know. My schedule is crap right now. So the last part, so we have the people section of the community page, the project section, the competition section. I've moved the competition info off the home page into here. You'll notice there's a donate button. By request from multiple people, I have added a donate feature. I'm going to track everyone's donations via PayPal. You'll get a credit during the next competition, the 27th anniversary competition, and you'll be adding to the prize pool, and I'll just tell everyone, who contributed how much, the prize pool, so people know who to thank. As far as the winners, you go and check out the competition page. This should be the finalized page of the competition. You see all the entries. I'm going to populate these with links to people's pages once I create them. I haven't created Coprodile or Malenko or Seven Chains or Volsoft yet. And then I'll try to get links to the relevant project pages themselves, so everything will be hot linked. And you can see the scores for all the judges for this previous competition, who came out on top, who won prize money. But yeah, so that's all finalized. That's on the website. I want to encourage anyone who's interested in the community to come check out the website and kind of look out at the directory listings. Most of these people are available on the Sega Extreme Discord. Second point for tonight. I should probably have this linked on the Twitch description yet, but I do not. I have my own Discord now to try and centralize everything. Crap. Let me see. Alright, there we go. So let me copy that over. So this is the link to my Discord. Let me put that in the description somewhere. Well, I guess I'll edit the Twitch description later and it'll be on YouTube. But if you'll go ahead and join me on my own Discord, We have several channels relevant to programming and homebrew, including basically all of my project threads that I kind of try to keep everything related. You'll see that my current project tonight is just a wrap-up for the competition build of Seniriu. I'm going to be moving on with Xenosega Interactive, otherwise known as Picard or Biorex. I don't know if he's on stream tonight, but we're going to be moving on to a plane flying simulation game for the next few months. And then when we finish up with a playable build of that, I'm going to port that logic from the plane flying game into Seniriu as the vehicle section of Seniriu. And then the second half of the year will be focused on Seniriu again to try and get a competition build for the 27th anniversary competition. We also have general programming threads and programming threads for different consoles. It's not very active right now because I've just recently made this Discord. There's a few people invited on it. Most of them are SX people. Some of them are for Shiro. Some of them are just elsewhere, just friends of mine. I want to go ahead and encourage everyone that has questions about my own projects or maybe Xenos' projects. Also, Biorex, Picard, the same guy. To come on here, just hang out if you want. Ask general programming questions. If you want to poke around for different homebrew developments. Obviously, the primary resource is SEGA Extreme, but this is my own personal hangout, and I check this more often than SEGA Extreme, and I'm relatively likely to try and help you find a solution if you're trying to look for something to do, if you're trying to get into homebrew yourself. So, link is there in chat. I will post the link up on the YouTube description. I will update the link on the Twitch description, but this is my own Discord. I'll try to pin it on my Twitter after tonight's stream, and then you guys can come join me there and we can hang out. And I'm on Discord a heck of a lot more than I am on Twitch because life has just been getting in the way recently. I'm going to try and keep an actual regular schedule. I'm going to block out one evening during the week, every week, to do at least some stream relative to programming. It doesn't necessarily have to be something related to the main project, like Blue Skies, which is the main project right now, or Seniriu, which will be the main project the second half of the year. Maybe I'll just be programming something stupid in C or Python or something. I'm going to kind of try and expand my purview to encourage me to stream more because right now my stream is narrowly focused on the SEGA Saturn, and sometimes I'm dealing with a problem specific to the hardware that I just can't solve, and I know I can't solve in an evening, and the pressure is not going to help on the stream. So again, I welcome everyone. Check out the website, check out the Discord, and let's finally move on to what I've been promising, which is the wrap up for Seniriu. So last time I talked about Seniriu or streamed on Seniriu, it was saying that I'm going to break my promise of having 100% of development on camera or on stream. I think that's going to continue because sometimes some problems just require you banging your head for a few days straight, and that's not fun to watch, and I don't think it's instructive. So the stream is no longer a running tally of what I've been doing. Rather than it's gonna morph into a maybe not a highlights reel, but a milestone, where if I'm getting close or if I've already accomplished something major in the code, I'll go over it and then I'll try to expand on it on stream. Hey Yusef, I actually haven't seen you since like the first or second stream of Seniriu. It's been a bit. Go over to the stream. So anyway, let's kind of go through sequentially just what's in the code, and I'll try to highlight what's new or relatively new, or what might have popped up that's different than last time we saw it, which is for a while ago, I acknowledge. I think the last time I streamed Seniriu development was like in December. So yeah, it's been a minute. So Joe main is where the program starts. We initialize the engine. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is not new. The background loading code. Now, this is something that has to change. Yeah, I mean, I got you on the side of my screen. I got you in my eye, so I mean, yeah, it's impressive that Twitch has low latency, but also I'm running a gigabit connection right now, so it's not like terrible. Yusuf, that is a 2-year-old joke, and you know it. Oh my goodness, I think that's still in my clips. I think my very first clip is you asking about freaking Pong. You know, I think one of these nights, maybe next week, I'll just kind of like crap out Pong in one session like I did for Minesweeper, just to like get rid of that joke. There we go. Next stream is Pong programming confirmed. Or maybe I'll just steal Ndiddy's Cyberblock Metal Orange and give it a second player. I don't know. Okay, so this background loading code, this is purely Joe Engine right now, and it's not optimal. So first off, I think what Joe Engine's doing, I haven't checked and I don't know properly, but I think it's loading things into low work RAM, which is or either low work RAM or high work RAM. The point is, it's loading it into RAM that I'm already using for a lot of other stuff. I know that XL2's Z-Tream Tools is pushing everything into low work RAM, all the 3D models, and I'm using a lot. And I'm not using them super efficiently either, so I'm having like doubling up so I can have multiple enemies on screen with different animation states. So right now I'm just using the boilerplate TGA loader. This is just a static background, so no matter where you face, the background is just being painted like that. It's not ideal, but it is what it is. Hey, Raimi, what's up? Welcome to the stream. I can't remember the last time I saw you on stream. I know you've been on here once or twice before, at least. Yeah, actually, Raimi, you can go ahead. I don't know if you missed it, but if you go on the website, I updated your page with your questionnaire and some links. Okay. So anyway, so the background loading, this is a primary problem for me right now because not only is it not loading things efficiently, like ideally it would put stuff into VDP2's VRAM almost immediately, or as fast as it reasonably could. So maybe it'll hold something in high work RAM or low work RAM as a temporary placeholder, but ideally it would move directly into VRAM as soon as possible, and then you could free up that space for something else. And I don't think Joe Engine's doing that, which is a problem I've been experiencing because when I try to change this code to have a more flexible background or something like that, or to have multiple VDP2 layers, it just broke the game. So I think there's a memory issue that I still haven't solved, and that's going to need to be solved in order to get Blue Skies to work correctly. Yeah, I can never tell what's late for me because I'm on Mountain Time now, and I used to be on Eastern Time, and I acknowledge Eastern Time is like the primary, audience grabbing thing. So I try to organize stuff around Eastern Time, but it is basically like midnight on the East Coast, right before Monday, the workday. So wait, Yusuf, are you? I can't tell if you're serious or not because you're like a professional developer. I can't tell if you're trolling. But one is the actual name of the variable, and one is the pointer to the variable address. Oh, okay. Okay, so you're one of those Java devs, aren't you? Like you just have Java do everything for you. But yeah, so ampersand means the memory address. Yeah, I figured it was a Java thing. I have no idea how Java is still popular. Like, people should have moved on to Python by now or something. Because if you're gonna do something interpreted, at least make it like not hideous. Java is hideous to work in. I've had to build big programs in Java for science stuff, and it wasn't fun dealing with all those, subtype of, or not subtype, but like this class has a property that's also this class, and that class has its own property, and you just kind of like drill down 5 classes in because everyone that builds Java libraries builds them like disgustingly nested. The thing is, in Python, like I've never okay. The biggest thing I've ever done in Python is a quantum well simulation, and I actually did one of those on the SEGA Saturn, I think last year or so, like that. So it's not a huge thing, but like in Python, you can kind of just like write a script and it'll kind of just go. And the object orientation is pretty simple to get set up. And maybe it's just me having my own biases in that when I build the object myself in Python, all the imports are kind of like sensible and don't have like things nested inside of them. And when you're building in Python, you can build things that just kind of work without having to do that ugly class that is a property of another class that is a property of another class that is a property of another class that Java devs love to use. So maybe it's just the way that Java devs do stuff, not necessarily the language itself. It's just the I guess the pattern that built up. I got my dog here bothering me about I don't know what. But he can't interrupt the stream. He needs to learn that. Okay, so you know what? This right after this might also be breaking stuff, and I just caught that. This is XL2's boilerplate for handling the background layers for VDP2, and I don't even know what Joe Engine is using as the default background sprite. But it might be one of the NBG layers. I don't know. Anyway, obviously we load the model, we load the game objects, we load the HUD. Yeah, people order our patties. I remember that. So one of the things that I tried, I'll get into this later, was a point-to-plane collision, and that didn't really work out, so I did hard-coded boxes. I'll go over what happened and what went wrong later. But this might be vestigial code that is no longer necessary. Let me see, initialize rooms. Okay, so that's the room organizer. That hasn't changed drastically. Generate rooms is just is hard-coded right now, but the engine is prepared for a procedural dungeon generator based off of grid-based rooms. The only issue is that I have to build the procedural generator. But basically, any valid map can be input as a grid, as a 3D grid, and then the initialize rooms or the map rooms command will generate, you know, an actual usable dungeon and traversable dungeon based off that, and fix all the collision in order for that to work. So in theory, this has a procedural capabilities. I just have to write the actual generator, which I haven't done yet. Same thing with things like statistics. I implemented statistics, which I'll go over in a little bit, but I didn't actually implement them and hook them into player input commands. So the statistics are there and they don't do anything. Prepare for physics sticks. Actually, let's look into that, because I forget what that is. It's been a little bit too long, actually. So let me see. Character test. What is that? Oh, okay. So let's go into real quick the character statistics, since we're on that now. So what I did is, actually, if you go on the website and you download the copy of Seniriu, or you go in the competition thread and download that, or you go on the GitHub and you download that, it's available in a lot of places. There is a player's manual that I was, I was relatively happy with. If I can find it, let me see if I can't find that player's manual. It might be in my website files. Just give me a second. Oh boy. There we go. But yeah, everywhere that Seniriu is available as a publicly releasable download should have this attached to it, the Seniriu Player's Handbook. And what I did is, Seniriu, the statistical basis and the RPG stuff of Seniriu is an evolution of what I did for Forsaken Plane last year. Oh, okay. Well, I'll see you in a little bit, Shane. Unless you're just going to bed. I don't know. I don't know what time it is for you. So, the mechanics, I ape Daggerfall and Morrowind a lot when I build these systems. So it's use-based skill progression, and using the skill ends up reinforcing the related attributes. So like if you end up using large blades a lot, you should become stronger and should get a little bit more perception. If you get hit a lot while wearing, medium armor, you should get tougher and you should grow a little bit of dexterity. Apparently on the road, so I shouldn't be talking or typing. You should be driving, but whatever. And not yet implemented are things like magic, speech systems, computer and engineering checks for interfacing with different things. Stealth stuff, which is basically just like rogue build type deals. Stealing from people or chests or whatever. And then I guess athletics would just be running around or whatever. So all the attributes are listed here. So like if you want to go over the player's handbook yourself and see what statistics I used, I spend a little bit of time trying to figure out what would be balanced, what would make sure you get an even distribution of skills if you used every skill, make sure that different kinds of builds were viable. In theory, obviously, because a lot of stuff is not implemented yet. And what I call the exertion statistics, just like health, stamina, and magic, like your basic, you know, are you about to die or can you do stuff statistics. They're relatively straightforward. They're all based off of your parameters, or your attributes. So whatever, you know, there are no like throwaway attributes in this game. I guess maybe if you want to call it, you know, guile and empathy. But guile and empathy become really important in role playing and getting like, you know, different kinds of presumably different endings whenever I get to that part of development, which is very far down the line. But you can actually see that these guys are implemented and they're doing something. They're just not doing anything useful at the moment because I haven't programmed in any sort of combat yet. So if we want to go ahead and run the game, let me make sure my controller is on. There we go. Okay. So this long load time is one of the issues of the game. I probably need to put in a loading screen. And you notice when I turn around, the background does not move. That's a consequence of how I load in the background, and I need to figure out a way of properly loading stuff in. If you look at the top of the screen, health, stamina, and magic are all refilling based off the rates from your the character statistics. All the character statistics are basically near 1 right now. And the health refill is slower than magic, which is slower than stamina. And that's all in the player's handbook. So like I said, they're implemented. They're just not used for anything. Right now, the animations are kind of like stuck on because I didn't tie them into the button trigger yet. I'm not planning on doing any development tonight. This is supposed to be a short stream, so I'll just kind of like describe what's going on and then what I plan on doing later. But basically, I have this animation loop, and I'll go over the animation loop code next, where the ZTP file has a bunch of different keyframes from Blender programmed in, and you just kind of go through them at a certain rate. I think my animation code is based off of 30 frames per second, but all the animations are written as 15, so a lot of these animations are doubled up. These are all the enemies we had prepared models for, so... Again, Xenos Interactive, responsible for all these models, formerly known as Picard or Biorex on the last stream. So you see I have the mesh effect on the textures for the slime or the blob, whatever it's called, and then we have the puffer, and then the eyeball monster thing, and I guess like the UFO, I guess you'd call it. I'd call it a drone or something. So the collision right now is based off of me hard-coding boundaries into all these doorways and walls, but they're based on room. So basically, when the rooms are generated, you place a room down, and if there's a room next to it, you open a doorway. And opening that doorway changes how many doorways the room has and the orientation, and that changes how the collision is calculated. So like I said, it's ready for a procedural generator, but it is not yet procedurally generated. So you can walk through all these doorways. You hold down the B button. Oh, that didn't do anything. Was it Y? Okay, so X is crawl or sneak. One of these was the run button. Oh, okay, it's Z. I don't know why Z is the run button now. I thought it would be something else. Huh. I have to go check the player's handbook to see what I actually said about that. So Z is run, C is jump. You can do running and jumping. I have to rewrite my input parser so that when you press sneak, you stay snucking or sneaking or whatever you want to call it. Because right now you kind of have to hold it down, and that's not convenient. I don't like that. Maybe I'll have the same thing for running, where you just have running stuck on or something like that. I don't know. But yeah, so right now the game is basically just a glorified tech demo. You get to see the enemy animations, you get to see the attack animation for the sword. I think there's a ZTP file prepared already for the magical hand motion animation that I have planned. The idea there will be that you press the B button, and then you input a sequence of commands, and the commands are all kind of like sensible in terms of like they all kind of mean the same thing as you go through it. So like X, Y, Z, A, B, C would all be mapped to a different one of the 6 elements, and then you have 6 different spell types, and then I guess you can put in like a magnitude or something like that. I haven't worked out all the kinks of what I plan on doing yet, but when I do get around to it, it should be kind of fun to do. And I planned on doing something similar for Forsaken Plane, but again, that was a competition build, and I didn't get around to implementing full magic system, so all I did was basically implement a heal spell that was hotkeyed on the magic button. But eventually we'll see what Seniriu actually plays like. When I get back to it, the first thing I think I'll do is just put in basic enemy attack and health bars, so I can just press the A button, or not the A button, sorry, the left trigger and right trigger should be, no, left and right are strafe, so I guess the A button and the B button, oh, there we go. The Y button was supposed to be magic, A and B are supposed to be left and right attack. Okay, so you can dual wield in the game, that's why. So yeah, so on the left you see like, you know, a totally legally distinct from a Star Trek phaser, and on the right is just some sort of fancy looking futuristic sword thing. So the idea is that you have different weapon types, you can equip them in either hand, or you can put a shield up or something like that. And it should play not as well as Skyrim, because Skyrim is Skyrim and I am not Bethesda, but it should be Skyrim inspired. Okay, so we've seen enough of what the game actually looks like. You guys see what it's about. So looking at the actual character, you have whether it's alive, whether it's being rendered at the moment. So that's gonna be that's part of my filtering code, is like filter what gets put in the rendering pipeline. So the problem with what I'm using right now is I have an older version of ZTream tools, the public version that was used for Sonic ZTream, and that's built on top of SGL. So SGL has a specific size of work area with a certain number of vertices and quads and what have you that are allowed to be rendered. So as you add things, even if they don't show up on screen, even if you add something to the pipeline that's behind you and won't get rendered, it does count as part of the rendering pipeline. And once you get above a certain threshold of faces or vertices, it'll stop trying to render it, even if you haven't actually run out of the system's ability to render stuff. And that has more to do with memory than anything else, I think. So part that render flag is just there to say, okay, do I need to put this in the pipeline? Does this have a chance of being seen? I get the sneaking boolean that I haven't properly implemented because that has to do with filtering the inputs of the controller. So I need a way to reliably say, okay, I've just pushed down. Okay, the X button was not previously pushed down, but it is pushed down now. So we have a new input command that is just a new button press. The problem is, generally when you're doing input parsing, every frame it checks to see if it's on or off. So if it's on during a frame and you're pressing the button, within the next 1/30th of a second, if it's still on, if you still have your thumb on that button, it's going to count as another button press. So it doesn't act as a good toggle if you don't filter it to see, okay, has it changed state in the last frame or two? So I have to add that, basically like input buffer in. Angle theta is angle, that should be self-explanatory, angle position. Velocity and acceleration are part of the physics engine. So everything here is kind of more or less Newtonian based. So the player actually has a forward momentum, of velocity. And when he's touching the floor, he has friction applied to him. So the friction kind of slows down the player. So you're actually, for like a couple frames probably, at least depending on how I've tuned the constants, you actually kind of slow down based off the acceleration. And I'll show you the physics that I have implemented for that after we're done going over the character statistics. Ah, crap. Okay, you know what? Let me fix that right quick, because that's not good. So, let me see. Let's open up games.php. Let's look at, there's Forsaken Plane, Minesweeper, Seniriu. Yeah, you're right, that's minesweeper.zip, and it should be Seniriu. Let me see. Yeah, Seniriu.zip. Okay, my bad. So, let's, real quick, open up FileZilla and, connect my web page server. me see. Gotta go over to the www folder. And let's just update the whole website. Okay, so Rami, Control F5 and then try again. It should be fixed. Sorry about that. Okay, and then next position, next velocity are also part of the physics calculation. They're basically just kind of, you have your current position, you have your next position, and that kind of acts as a buffer to figure out, not only your vector for what's going on, but also kind of gives you a placeholder saying, okay, let's do all our physics calculations on one, and then update it into the other. Hey, thanks for the follow, Angel Neves. Go ahead and type up in chat and introduce yourself if you want. So I don't know how long you've been listening, but I'm just going over the competition build I had for Seniriu. So for the SEGA Saturn 26th anniversary competition, you can find information on that competition on the Sega Extreme forums. You can also find it on emeraldnova.com under the community section if you go to none of the competitions. I think I tied for 9th place with Tank Game. Okay, so current room, actually the room system is kind of weird, and I don't know if I want to keep it this way. I might end up doing a thing where I kind of get rid of this and go to more of a generalized coordinate system. So the rooms right now, whatever room you're in is your coordinate system. So your coordinates can never be different than -5 to 5 on X or Y, unless you're out of bounds, which you should never be. So that's the same. X, Y, and Z should always be -5 to 5. Maybe if you're on the roof, you can get higher than 5, or sorry, lower than 5, because -Y is up. But I need to drink some water real quick. Okay. But basically, whenever you enter a doorway and you go to another room, it resets whatever room you're in, so that kind of shifts your coordinate system. And it might be causing some weird problems with the physics. So I had this plane collision problem that I'll go over when I actually look at the physics and see what I tried to do, and it kind of worked, and it looked really cool up until it didn't. And after that, I had to hard code in basically bounding boxes. Oh yeah, so Angel, I don't know if you can see the chat history. But I have... Oh, sorry. There we go. Let me go over to... Here, let me go and invite you here. I have a Discord with a bunch of different programming sections in it. I also want to encourage you, if you're interested in Saturn Homebrew specifically, or Sega Homebrew, to go over to the Sega Extreme Discord, which should be linked somewhere on Twitch or on my YouTube page. But if you're just interested in programming in general, that's my own community that I manage with Shane's help. Okay, so from here, we have the physics stuff that I'll go over when I talk about physics, and then we have the skills. The skills are all exactly what you see in the player's handbook, and they're just shortened to 3 letters for ease of programming. Exertion statistics are current, and then the attributes and the maximum exertion statistics are calculated on the spot based off of these guys. So if you want to know how much health you have, I believe it's like 5 times your strength or whatever, or toughness, one of the two. So you calculate your toughness or strength or whatever based off of your skills, and then you take that and you multiply it by 5, and that gives you the maximum, and that gives you the health bar. Okay, let me see. Character physics. Maybe character physics is the function I'm looking at. Okay, so here's the actual physics part of the engine, unless there's an actual physics dot. Nope. Okay, so I put it all in character. So yeah, it's probably not the best code organization, but I'll address it when I get back into it. So the first thing that happens is whatever was in position next from last frame gets written in the current position. Same with velocity. Oh, I do? Is it doing anything, though? Because I don't think it's doing anything. If there's no physics... Oh, there it is. There's physics.h. What do you have inside of you? I have dot product, cross product. Okay, generate plane info. Plane intersect checked. Okay, that's the thing I was trying to do. Let's go over the character first, and I'll go over that. So, so what we do is we write the whatever the finalized next position was at the beginning of your physics check. You put it in your current position, and then you start writing stuff into your next position in order to calculate what's going to happen next. So your next position should be current position plus time times your velocity for each coordinate system or each direction or whatever. Yeah, and then you have the kinematic equation for acceleration times time squared divided by 2. So what I do is I have delta time times delta time, Joe fix mult, and then I bit shift to the right one. That's division by 2. And then I multiply it again by acceleration. So that's just kinematics. It's like high school physics. The new velocity is based off of current velocity plus the acceleration times delta time. Again, high school physics there. So the room update, this is what I was talking about earlier. If you go into another room, first off, the room has to exist. So yeah, if the room number is within the bounds of room grid, and obviously greater than 0, indicating that if you're on room 0, you can't go backwards in another room on that direction. And it just increments your room, and from there, your room grid will increment as well. So the room grid is just storing like how big a room is from front to back. So if it's -5 to 5, then the room grid will store 10. And so you decrement your room or increment your room by 10 every time you change room, depending on which direction you're going in. And this is the same for all 3 directions. Okay, so plane collision. This is all commented out. But essentially, what I was doing is I was taking your current position and your next position, and I was checking to see if you can do mathematics to see if one is on one side of a plane or another by taking the normal of the plane, which is pre-calculated, and doing basically a dot product between... Or was it a dot product? Let me see. Oh, let's actually go into plane intersect check and actually check. Generate plane info. So generate plane info should get me a few different vectors based off of what I was using to fix. I don't want to go over it right now because it doesn't currently work, so I might have done something wrong, or it's just not stable. So I don't want to spend too much time saying what I did in case what I did was wrong enough that I'm just wasting everyone's time. But the basic motivation of it is that you make a normal, and you check to see if your previous point and your next point are on different sides of the plane based off of the dot product with that normal. That's what this part does. And then from there, you have to do a series of different checks. I don't know where it comes up with the checks. It might be an under character. Yeah, because one of the problems I had was that maybe it would trigger the collision once, and then it puts you on the plane or something like that. And then the next frame, it wouldn't trigger the collision because you're on the plane, and for some reason the dot product check didn't work out, and then it just fell through. And another problem was with high enough velocity, it just wouldn't calculate correctly at all. And part of that might have had to do with how I set up the rooms, where one room has its own set of physics checks, and you don't check any physics on the next room. So maybe I'll have to do a thing where if I'm doing physics checks, if my velocity is pointed toward a certain room, that I also perform checks on everything in that room too. And it'll help when everything's on the same coordinate system and not every room is its own coordinate system. So what I did instead is I commented out all the point-to-plane collision stuff, and I replaced it with hard-coded axis-aligned room collision. So basically what I did is I checked if a doorway is there, and if a doorway is there, I open up the doorway, and I'm allowed to go between, let me see, where's that part? between the door exterior, there we go, door exterior coordinates or whatever. I forgot what EXT stood for. But basically, you have a floor coordinate, a ceiling coordinate, a door coordinate, and a wall coordinate. And what happens is, depending on whether or not a doorway is programmed into the room grid, that tells you whether or not you can go through a certain part of that wall. So it's all hard coded. You guys can go over on the GitHub to see the specifics of it. But in general, it's basically you have the floor. The floor is always the same. The ceiling is always the same. And the wall is there, and the check changes whether or not there is a door in there. Yeah, you know what? That's likely as well. I can see that happening, where your previous position was -y, and your next position is 0 because it got fixed to the floor, or something close enough to 0 where it's basically 0. If I do like a rounding thing. In the next frame, previous position is now, or current position is now 0. Next position, you don't have any vertical velocity anymore because you've stopped that by the collision check on the floor. So if you're staying perfectly still, your previous coordinate, your next coordinate are the same. So the check on both sides of the plane would come out to the exact same. So what I have to do is I have to basically have some sort of memory saying, okay, if I'm currently colliding with the plane, don't stop colliding with the plane unless I've left the plane, or something like that. I don't know. I have to think about it a little bit harder than I did during the competition, because what it was is a lot of this programming came out during the last week or the last few days of the competition, and by the time I got to this point, I think I was in the last 24 hours, and I was not in a good way. I was pretty tired. I spent a lot of time figuring out what was wrong with the exterior hull meshes. My God, what is all this crap? All this stuff. Get out of my playlist. Close enough. Okay. Anyway, so I spent a lot of time, several hours working on stuff during the last few hours, and obviously fatigue was an issue, crunch was an issue. I managed to get a tech demo out. What I want to do next time is maybe, I don't know if I want to do full-on entire maps inside of Blender and just change the way I'm handling the rooms, or just keep the procedural stuff, make a procedural generator, and just have the entire game. So I have a galaxy set up with 44,000 stars. So basically, I could have the player be able to input coordinates, get to the closest star to that coordinate, and generate an actual dungeon based off a procedural generator if I write one. So if I put the player back at a safe distance, and then the next check continues as is, I think I might have tried that once, and what ends up happening is that you get the screen shakes violently because you keep switching between positions because it's not exact. Yeah. So the thing with the map generator is that I'd want everything to be more or less fixed. If you go to this same star, it's always going to be the same location with the same stuff in it. So basically, I'd have to fix the seed on the random number generator, and or at least have a very complicated function that generates a room based off of the system coordinates of the star that you're visiting. Yeah. So when I do get back to Seniriu, I will address the collision problems with the point-to-plane, because point-to-plane is better than what I'm doing now, because it allows you to go up ramps. When it was working, before I found out I could fall through floors, I actually had the player launched him out of an imaginary cannon and had all the floors sloped upward, and he was actually sliding up floors and then falling back down to the next floor and sliding up, going several rooms at a time. It was kind of funny because I turned off friction, or I turned down friction a lot. So it was really impressive, or I really impressed myself up until the point I found out where it had significant drawbacks and things were breaking, which is unfortunate. But yeah, but when I do get point-to-plane working, really, I had a short conversation with XL2 about it, and he has 3 different layers of collision. Obviously from easier to harder, and that's the way you really want to do it, is you want to be able to screen the easy collision and go down and down until you get harder and harder collision, you know, stuff that takes longer. So what I do is I basically have 2-level collision check. I have, are you in the room? And if you're in the room, do a point to plane for everything. And I think what XL2 is doing is maybe like Manhattan distance and point to plane and some other thing. And he's also got like planar subdivision on a lot of his wall and floor tiles, which I still need to understand how to do. Like, I understand mathematically how to do it. I don't understand how in engine to do it and actually get it to render. But he's doing much more impressive stuff than me, and I think in order for Seniriu to really progress, I'm going to end up having to move away, maybe not from STL, but maybe from Joe Engine, and maybe have something a lot more customized to my needs. But that's for further down the line. But that's more or less how the physics work. You saw the character statistics. I don't know what else is really new in here. I guess I can go over the animations real quick, but we've done an animation stream before, and this is actually kind of a worse version of that animation. Because previously, when Pona was helping me out, we were doing interpolated animation. So you could have, you know, frames between keyframes and have much smoother animation. Right now what I'm doing is I just have hard-coded keyframes, and I just iterate them every frame. Which is bad because if frame rate ever drops, that means the animation rate's going to drop. It's going to desync all the logic. So I have to fix that too. So let me see. Where do I actually write in the animation so I can see what I'm doing? There we go. So here we have object 0, 1, 2, and 3, and those are all the objects that I have in the corners of the rooms, I believe. And I have a separate animation definitions made for let's have a different song. There we go. So I have separate animations for the left and right equipped object that I'm also doing. So we have different animations that are available. So let me see if I can find. There we go. So you have your previous frame. You have the set of frames that you have, current animation, current frame, current keyframe. So you have up to 10 animations. Each of them can each have 128 frames, which is probably overkill. I can change that distribution up a little bit. But essentially, you tell it what's your current animation. Animation 0 for most of these guys is just basically staying still. So you're saying your previous frame was 0 for animation 0, and then for animation 1, or not previous, last frame, not previous frame, last frame. So last frame is how many frames you go to before you start looping. In this case, we have 30 frames per second, but the animations are generated with each keyframe at 15 frames per second. And I slowed them down even further for testing purposes. So really, every one of these frames is, for this one specifically, looks like it's animated at like 10 frames a second. Because it's 30 FPS, but triple the frame count for each frame. So it's basically 10 FPS. So it's a pretty straightforward kind of, you know, you tell it, you know, frame J is on the first 3, or frame 0 is on the first 0, or the first 3. Then the next 3 are frame 1, all the way up until number 29, which is how many frames I have for that animation. Let me see when I load the game object. When did I load? I have a custom loading code as well, but where did I put it? Let's see. Load models. Okay, it's under load models, so it's probably loading.c. So I have, I load up all the ZTP files at once, and that's why the loading time is so horrendous for this game. Is not only do I load all the ZTPs, I also load up the background image right before that, and that's all happening at once without any sort of loading screen to buffer it in or something like that, or remind you that, yeah, the game is still running. So, hey Pona, welcome to the stream. You're awake. Okay, what did you just link to us? Oh, okay, something about Warcraft 3. I'll watch it later. But thanks for re-upping on the subscription, Ponut. But anyway, so I'm loading up. I have all the file names. listed out, and then so that's 16 files, 16 CTP files, all full 3D. Some of which have whatchamacallit, animations. I load up 2 versions of the left and right equipped item because what I wanted to do is I wanted to have the item that you hold on screen, and then the little circles in the top of the screen would be previews of the item you have equipped. So they would be like, you know, maybe like little animations of them spinning around or something like that, but that might be excessive. I might just end up drawing them differently or something like that because they're taking up space, but I'll have them there somehow. So these are doubled up. The exterior halls are loaded up, so like really the rooms take up 8 slots. And the size of a lot of these guys is... Let's just add up all the ZTPs I have in here. Well, some of these aren't actually real. So, really, it's not too bad. So, I'm taking up basically 300 kilobytes in 3D models. But I'm doubling up some of these guys. So, like, because the ones with a lot of animation are the ones that are huge. Like, the Blob has a fair bit of animation on it. It has, like, 80 keyframes or something like that. So, it's 87 kilobytes. But in order for me to implement the animation keyframe by keyframe, I only need to have all the animations listed once on one model. And then I can have a dummy model that has all the textures on it and all the vertices on it. But I don't need to add in all the animations on top of it. So what I can do is I could have a master ZTP with all the animations built in, and then a dummy ZTP with just the textures and vertices. Because what I had to do for the animation is every time I update the animation on something loaded in by ZTP, it changes all instances of that when I'm drawing it. So I need to have something separate loaded in. But if I'm not using the animation definitions multiple times, I don't have to take up that space in memory. Okay, yeah. I mean, I was already playing it earlier, but let's play it again. Sure. Is my controller still alive? Yeah, I've been talking so long the controller fell asleep. But yeah, the idea with a dungeon crawler is you want to have a variety of enemies, and in order to do that, you need to have them all loaded in at once. Otherwise, you'd be loading in enemies between frames, and that's not acceptable. Because look how long we're waiting to load in just 16 different models, right? Okay. So all these guys are being animated based off of information in ZTP, obviously, and that's based off of different keyframes in Blender, exported through the object file. But if you didn't have the animations, you'd still have the textures and the vertices, and that's all I need to instantiate a new enemy. So if I made the ZTP without having all the animations on it, I can save a lot of space. So like this guy over here in this corner, that's 87 kilobytes. But he's probably, if I just check real quick, like if I were just to compare something with a similar number of verts and textures, he might end up being like less than 20 kilobytes for just the non-animated file. And then I can draw information from the animated file and use the transforms to change the vertices on the instance that I loaded in of the non-animated model. So really, I could have like a bunch of these guys on screen, I'll animate them all based off the same information, and only take up maybe like 150 or so kilobytes. Because, you know, the big animated model might be 87, but the non-animated could be 20. So 87, and then maybe like 4 others. So I can have like 5 of these guys on screen and not take up most of my VDP1 RAM, which is the problem. Yeah, so that's the problem. With the transparency and the flat texture, it's hard to do stuff. It's hard to like see things. And the other problem is, because of the way I'm rendering the rooms, all the rooms are rendered on more or less their own coordinate system, and they're all instances of each other. So SGL native lighting sucks, and I don't have a way of fixing it because I don't know how to do lighting. So without lighting, it's hard to like texture or make the appearance of texture on some of these guys. And really, I'm not against this aesthetic, but it hurts me here. So either we have to retexture the blob or turn off the transparency mesh, or do something else with it. Yeah. So yeah, I had to disable lighting because the lighting was super unstable. and I have to re-implement lighting somehow if I'm going to do that. Although I could just get away with baked-in lighting and just doing this. I don't know. Like XL2, all of his levels are, he designs them in Trench Broom, and then he just kind of segments them into portals and loads them in. I don't know if he's still using VSP or something else. But what I'm doing is all of these rooms are made up of the same pieces. This corner is the same model as this corner, is the same model as this corner, is the same model as this corner. So, same with the doorways. All the doorways are the same model. All the windows are the same model. The floors and the ceilings are all the same model. And what happens when you try to light one and you load it in the render pipeline, and then you add in another one and you try to load in a different lighting, they all reflect the same lighting. It's the same problem as the animation. So the way I solve that with animation is I load in different models for each enemy I want to animate. But even if I'm not animating, if I want to light them individually, that it's in itself is a big problem, because now I'm taking up all my VDP1 VRAM, loading in all these redundant models just so I can light them correctly. I don't think I'm going to end up doing lighting for Seniriu 1. I think any lighting I'm going to be doing is just going to be pre-baked. I'm fine with this aesthetic. I'm fine with how most of these enemies look. Maybe we have to retexture some. They're kind of like flatly, solidly colored, except the eyeball, whatever that thing is. Yeah, and the thing about that is I have no idea what I'm doing when I start playing with that kind of stuff. I'm not like a real Saturn dev. I'm a game designer using people's tools on Saturn to do stuff. Like, I'm better at, like, making levels, making the logic of the levels, making the logic of, you know, enemy AI, player statistics, stuff like that. And that's what's really tempted me into thinking about, like, moving this project over to Unity so I could actually finish it in my lifetime. But obviously, Xenos is more interested in making Saturn games and just making this game specifically. Obviously, I'm married to this concept, and I'm married to the lore, because I've been working on this lore for a while. I mean, I've got several projects within this lore. I've got Forsaken Plain is part of this lore. I have a tabletop game that's part of this lore. I've got a few stories that are part of this lore. You know, obviously, Seniriu is planned as a part of a series of games within this setting. So I want this game to happen, but in order to keep Xenos on board, and in order to make sure, like, I've already announced this game for Saturn, there's no reason for me to quit and not do it, because it's doable. I just have to learn a lot more Saturn stuff, and I'm just not good at specific hardware things. So the thing about that is, first off, I'm using SGL and SBL, and part of building, you can actually read this in Mr. Kotfu's interview on the website. Part of building any Saturn game is loading in a little header as part of the image so that it loads up on the game. So I can't really get around having some sort of native SEGA code, even if it's just ip.bin. If somehow we manage to completely replace all of SGL and all of SBL with YAL or something like that, like a completely SEGA-free version of YAL, ip.bin is still there, and the whole thing is built with Saturn limitations in mind. So what I could do is, if I manage to section off all of the Saturn-related logic, all of the loading code, all of the rendering code into its own section, I could presumably port this game over to PC, as long as, like, I translated things correctly. But that means I'd have to have some sort of PC graphics library that can handle quads, because all these assets are quad based, and also something that I could quickly and easily replace all the commands for. And then I'd have to obviously change the input as well, because the input is Saturn based. But I mean, I guess I could eventually, presumably, do a PC port of this, but it would be almost easier to rebuild this game in Unity or Unreal than to do that, because of all the things that I just listed. But let's say if I did give up on Seniriu on Saturn, and I have the framework in here in order to turn this into a roguelike, right? So I could, like, get rid of a few unnecessary checks, like and reorganize the skill set. So like maybe get rid of the relationship skill, which is more part of the story. Turn this into a roguelike where like you get to the end of the dungeon, procedurally generate the next dungeon, and keep going. And that would be a game on Saturn. And then the actual RPG that I want to make with like all the dialogue, all the story, all the quests, I could do on PC a lot easier. And you know, maybe that's an option, depending on what Xenos thinks. But Xenos has put a lot of work into this project, and I'm not gonna like trash it just because it's getting a little bit hard. I have to learn how to do stuff. That's just it. I just have to learn more Saturn. I'm just getting a little frustrated because of how difficult things are getting. The more 3D stuff you do, and the more you're like pushing the boundaries of how much RAM you have. Yeah, I mean, it's like how to draw a circle is basically okay. Start with a finished game and then erase part of the stuff until you have something that you can transport. Which, like, I guess that's how you do that analogy. Yeah, porting something is not a trivial project. Like a lot of in the competition, you saw a lot of other people's games, well, not other people's, like previously finished games that were technically sort of ports, but not put in the hacks, patches, and translations category. And that's because a lot of the time when you're porting a game, it's almost easier just to reprogram the thing from scratch than to try to port the logic, even if the logic is there. Like Final Fantasy, Trekkies Unite did that Final Fantasy world map port. The logic is there in assembly. And maybe he could change all the codes to make it SH2 assembly as opposed to NES assembly. But then he'd have to start worrying about how to do things like render different things. And really, it's so much easier just to take the algorithms that you know exist based off of demakes and rebuilds of the Final Fantasy engine and just make it from scratch, which is what I think he did. And the reason those guys are in the original game category and not hacks, patches, and translation is because of how much work it takes to get it there. It's basically like making your own game again. You just happen to be using someone else's assets. And really, you know, I didn't draw these things. I download these things from Open Game Art. I have the rights to do that. But, like, in terms of work ethic, it's not substantially different than taking a finished 3D game and stealing their assets and trying to do that. And I think that's what XL2 did. I think a lot of his assets that weren't made by other people, I think, I don't know if I'm remembering this wrong. Maybe it's not Anton or Corvadu, one of those guys. But when it's not those custom-made models, the textures are, I think, from Quake or something. Still an impressive game. It's still a lot of hard work. So yeah. Basically, the point is, even if you're taking like a finished product, if you're trying to transport it to something it was not built for, is enough work where it's basically making your own game from scratch. Okay. So, I don't know what else there is. Like, I've covered the character statistics. I've covered what I tried to do with physics and what ended up happening. I've covered animation. I've covered the background and the problems with that. And I still have to learn a lot more VDP2 so that I can help with Blue Skies. So, like I said, the next project, I'm working with Xenos. Blue Skies, we're going to be doing the a plane flying simulation. I guess it would be more like a clone of Pilot Wings. Maybe clone might be a little bit too ambitious, but like inspired by Pilot Wings. But all this code is available on GitHub. I wasn't really planning on doing much else with this today. I just wanted to do a quick stream, just showing what I have and what was planned and what I wanted to do. And then in the second half of the year, we'll get back to it. And maybe I'll release a build of Seniriu where it's literally just a roguelike where you're just going around and banging up these bad guys at increasing difficulties until you get to like 100 floors of the space station or something like that. I don't know. We'll see what happens in the second half of the year. In this half of the year, up until probably around summer or so, I'm going to be working on Blue Skies. We're going to learn how to fly planes. We're going to learn how to do multiple VDP2 layers, which is what the Saturn is supposed to be really good at. I'm just not good at it. And hopefully it'll come out well. Actually, we can go do a real quick preview of some of the assets that Blue Skies has available and ready for it. So let me see. So like, oh my. Gimp, what are you doing? Gimp, no. Huh. Okay, oh, you know what? The ZTPs. let's see if I can open up the model tester. Actually, this is something else available on the GitHub. If you want to try making your own Saturn models, you follow along the instructions that I give in whatever stream I did where I started doing this stuff, and you use the XL2's model exporter. You drop the models in here under the model tester. So everything's available. If you just download all the GitHub code, it should just work out of the box if you go to this folder. And let me see. In main, we have... Is this the right one? One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Where is door, floor, phaser, ramp? I swear I've tested this before. Where did it go? Anyway, let's take these guys. Building an island. And let's load them in. Projects. Model tester. Drop them in the CD folder. Let's copy this, and that'll be my second thing that I load in. And then, where is island? Island. There we go. Island. That'll be the third thing I load in. Okay. So there's a quick preview for Blue Skies. So we have an island model already built with, thanks to Xenos. There we go. Okay, so that's a saber. I want to press Y to remove the number of sabers to 1, because I only want... Yeah, where's the... Oh. Okay, I'm like right on top of it. I only want one model to load up, because I'm about to load up something with a lot of quads. So B gives you more models to load. Okay, there we go. Let me see, I'm trying to back up enough so I can see everything that's loaded in. There we go. Okay, so B increases the number of models loaded. So this is kind of like a stress test for the Saturn to see what it can handle and see what happens, at the point at which the frame rate drops. So you can see we're at 60 frames right now, and then 60.1 because Mednafen is not accurate. It's a little bit fast. And then when we have more than like 1,500 quads, or like somewhere between 1570 or 1624 or something like that, that's when frame rate starts dropping. So if you can get your game within like 1550 quads, you can probably maintain 60 frames, but that's not counting logic for physics and enemy AI and collision and stuff. So really, if you want to make a 3D game, you want it to all fit, and you want it to keep at a high frame rate, try to keep the quad count and vert count to around what this is, or less. So I'm going to remove all these extra models. I can hear the cat complaining already. Yeah, I mean, I could load up a bowling pin thing with the same logic and do something similar. Crap. Okay, and now we're going to press A to go to the next model. And these are the buildings on the island. So these are probably out-of-date models because the textures look old. They're yellow and they probably should be different colors. I'm sure Xenos, when he finally sees this, will correct me and say, okay, you should have gotten this model or something like that. But these buildings are going to sit on this island. And this island you'll be flying over in the plane. So I believe over there is the landing strip. I'm moving too slow to really appreciably see anything here. But there should be like a some sort of aeroplane landing strip or something like that over there. And then there's some hills, and when we go back, press X to go to the previous model, we see, there's supposed to be, I think those are supposed to be windmills over there, some buildings, and then maybe all the buildings attached to the landing strip over there. Yeah, it's great because I mean you're gonna be in the sky the whole time, so the quad count doesn't need to be high, and it still looks good. So like 500 or so quads for the island, and then the buildings are another 600, which is understandable. And really, some of these buildings should probably be simplified because the quad count is probably too high, considering how far away they're going to be from the plane and the camera. I know that the windmills over there have a problem with backface culling because we can't see the blades from this end, so we have to go over there to see them. Obviously, in the game, you'll be flying a little bit faster than this because this is assuming walking speed, and we're like several meters in the air, I think. I don't know. But what's going to happen is we're going to need a VDP2 plane across the floor to create an ocean, and presumably it'll be tiles with multiple animation states for the tiles, so I'll have to learn how to do that so that it could look like waves are happening. And then we're going to have a cylindrically symmetric VDP2 plane to do the background horizon view, and then maybe an overhead VDP2 plane for like overhead clouds or whatever. But that is the plan. And that's what I'm going to be working on for the next few months. So that's going to be more or less Xenus' game, the game that he wants to make. And we're going to see how well that comes out, how well we can program that. And just, a couple more real quick previews before I think I'm going to close up the stream. Let me see. Textures? Oh yeah, here's some water texture. So that'll hopefully fit. Pre-rendered sprites. So here's like the plane that you'd be flying. So you'd be able to, it's kind of like a third-person preview of the plane. So it's not going to be rendered. It's going to be VDP2 based. So really, there's going to be 4 planes involved. There's going to be the ocean flat plane with tiles on it, the horizon plane that's looping around cylindrical symmetry, overhead cloud plane that might also be tile based. I don't know. And then you have this plane and the HUD and everything that's going to go in front where the character is. And then on top of that, you have all the 3D models. So VDP2 is going to be relatively busy. VDP1 is going to be doing its normal job. Hopefully everything works out. But yeah, that's the plan. So I'm going to be working on Blue Skies for the foreseeable future, and then sometime halfway through the year, we're going to start looking at what's going to happen for the competition. Maybe we'll submit Blue Skies for the competition. Maybe we'll submit Seniriu for the competition. Maybe we'll do both. But I'm going to get back to work in Seniriu after a few months of working on Blue Skies, maybe halfway through the year, and then we'll see what happens from there. Again, I want to invite everyone. Let me just link it one more time. Where is it? There we go. Let me link it one more time. And invite everyone to my Discord. If you're interested in Saturn-specific stuff, invite you over to the Sega Extreme Discord. Looks like this guy over here. Please go to the website to get updates on all this stuff. And I believe if my GitHub link is not there already, I will add it at some point for Seniriu's code by itself. And included in Seniriu's code is this model test. Oh, that's the wrong one. I forgot the Nova. It's emeraldnova.com, not emerald.com. And if you want to go to GitHub, maybe I can just go real quick and just find it. GitHub. There we go. So you go to GitHub. You should be able to... oh, wait, this is old. Yeah, oh, no, that's right. You're just in the Seniriu subfolder. So if you go to the model test subfolder, you put stuff in the CD folder, you can do the preview the same way I showed you guys. And that way, this is a quick and easy way to see what's going on in the Saturn when you load up your models to see if they work, see how they look, if you guys want to work on your own 3D stuff. But for now, I think that's everything I wanted to cover tonight. I didn't get too many questions, just a lot of, old and new faces coming in to say hi. So just go ahead and check out all the links I sent, come join the community, and I'll see you guys next time. And hopefully I'll try to figure out a way to block out a set of time where I absolutely have to stream, and that way I'll do things more often than just once a month. So actually try to keep keep on to some sort of production schedule here. So I guess thanks everyone for showing up. I know it's late. Let's go ahead and say goodnight, everyone, and I'll see you next week, hopefully.